Thanks. How are you?
Okay, hey,
How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. I have a Vine and Chill cipher on the 22nd, and
You are breaking up.
I don't know. Let me come back. See if I back up if it'll fix it. Can you hear me better?
Yeah, it's not so broken up.
I'm surrounded by trees. They giving me good interference. What about now? Okay, we good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna be still then. So I have a Vibe and Chill cipher on the 22nd, and we have a panel at the very end. And we're going to be talking about intimacy and relationships, courting, marriage, all of these things in the Black community. And so I know that you are a intimacy doula. And so I have 5 minutes, and I want you to tell me all the things. Tell me who you are, tell me what you do. Um, I personally know because I've had a chance to experience you twice how passionate you are about it. I'm also part of your group on Facebook. So I just want to give the people like a good peek into who you are and what you do because it's so important.
Okay. Well, I'm Yeside Davis. I'm an intimacy doula. And in that, I guide women. It is Black women centered, but I work with all women to have a improved sexual, spiritual life. And so, what I mean by that is learning that connection between sexuality and spirituality. Because, especially for us who were raised in any denomination of Black church, the sexuality part got squashed real quick. Like, it's a sin unless you're married. Even if you are married, there's still certain things you can't do. Don't let your flesh rise up. All that kind of stuff that surrounds us as sexual beings. It traumatizes us in ways we may not think about. And so that's the work that I do. I work with women who think they're struggling with their sexual orientation because of how they've been taught. They've been taught that it's wrong to love someone who looks like them, has the same body parts as them, that kind of thing. I've met women and worked with them who are heterosexual and married, but still have so much body shame they can't be physically naked with their husbands without the shame of it, because they didn't know they were traumatized until they got out of the indoctrination. So I work with women to break down all of those barriers and get to who they are, stand in that. And if they still want God, hey, you can have God and sex, get it in. So we work with all that so they can come to their own truth. And the freedom is in the truth. And what's true for them may not be true for me. And what's true for me may not be true for them. But I want to guide them into knowing that there is, number one, a connection between sexuality and spirituality. Two, how to forge that connection. And three, how to live life through the flow of that connection. So that's what I do. Was that 5 minutes? Girl, I was talking fast.
You gave me a good, I even have some time to ask you a couple questions. That was so good, girl. That was so good. Okay, so I love what you said about people who have been in any type of, I'm gonna call it systematic religion. That's what I'm gonna call it. I'm not gonna be politically correct with it. We're just gonna call it what it is. Anything that restricts you from being exactly who you are, right? And so a lot of people in the church now are seeing what's wrong with what they call the purity movement. If I save myself before marriage, it's nothing wrong with that, but
Nothing
it's
wrong
the
with it.
unrealistic expectations that come with it. If we both save ourselves before marriage and then we get together on the marriage night, we're going to have bomb sex. But neither one of us we don't know how to have sex. We've never had sex. We've never been with another person. And hopefully, because this is truly healthy, you've been with yourself, right? Because a lot, and it depends on the theology. A lot of it is very poor, but it depends on the theology behind it. I've even had some people tell me that they were raised and taught to believe that masturbation is wrong.
I was one of those people.
And I was like, but how, Sway? Because it's, if you look in any basic health class, college, high school, junior high, they tell you that exploration of the body is like one of the first things that children do. And because
Mhm.
we as adults, we're thinking like that in our mind. The first thing we do is we stop our babies. Don't do that. Where you get that from? I got that from
Yeah,
me because I have to explore me. I have to know me.
yeah,
Um, I work with a lot of clients in different areas, and one of the first things that women have to tackle is that I ask the question as a womb practitioner, like, okay, so tell me, what makes you feel good? And they're like, well, I have to ask my husband. I'm like, you got to ask somebody else something about your body.
yeah.
My
It
baby sister,
happens
she
all the
hit me with
time.
that. And I was like, sis, you gotta ask somebody what's going on down there. Like, you don't take a mirror and look down there. And she was like, for what? And I was like, girl, what you mean? How do you know
Yeah.
the difference between healthy and not healthy? If it hurts, is it
Yeah.
inflamed? You don't know because you've never seen it healthy. Like, I wrote my very first blog post was about why I yoni gaze. And I was like, it was an affirmation for a friend of mine who had been taught that like she didn't belong down there. And I was like,
Yeah.
but your but your husband belongs down there? Like, how you gonna teach him what you like if you don't know?
If you don't know, and I heavily teach self intimacy. That's where we start when I work with women. Nobody should know you better than yourself. We like the whole romantic idea of you know me better than I know myself. That's all romantic sounding, but just really not healthy. You
It's
know,
not.
you should know yourself the best. And that's on every level. May. It is masturbation month. I If you ain't gonna never explore, you, you need to be exploring this month.
Yes,
This
a lot
National
of
Masturbation Month.
I agree.
Yeah,
A lot of frigidity issues. You're really not frigid down there. You're underexposed to yourself. So
yeah.
it's not that
You
you
don't know
can't have an
yourself. Yeah,
orgasm. You've never given yourself one, so you don't know how to instruct anybody else to go down there. And Lord forbid you have a partner who does not like to be taught about your body. Like, then y'all got to start back at the basics. So
come
if
on
you're
now.
scared to deal with your body, what he gonna do? You can't even direct
And
him
then
on
we
what to do.
expect our partners just to telepathically know.
Yes. Men automatically know because they're never shamed. Well, that depends. If you're in a heavily religious family, you might be shamed for masturbating. But in my experience, most men are not shamed. They're given the tools that they need and they're given a closed door policy. That's your business, handle that. So they know what works and what doesn't. But us, on the other hand, either it's not talked about at all or it's completely and totally shamed. And then you have this
Yeah,
fantasy and you find yourself in a sexless marriage, like sex is a chore. Right, because it doesn't feel good, sis.
yeah. And you wonder why I don't feel good, especially if you were one of the people who were able to hold on to a marriage. You're still gonna know if it was bad, whether you have something to compare to it or not, because you just know it just don't feel good.
Right. And that people don't want to, I guess they don't want to address it. I'm not going to say they don't want to admit it because they admit it to themselves. They just don't tell other people. Like, sex is a big part of marriage because it's a big part of intimacy. Intimacy is a two-part thing. It's part sex, and then it's part the quality time that you share, the snuggles and the hugs. But
All of
if
that.
you have a wall or a barrier where good sex is supposed to be, I mean, you kind of butt out and booty showing. I'm just gonna be honest. It's gonna be tough because that you guys have never broken a wall where it was just y'all two together, spirit to spirit. Like, you've never had that
Mm-hmm.
kind of energetic exchange.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do y'all know each other? I mean, it's still possible, but if you can do it with somebody else that's not your husband or not your wife, but you can't do it with them, I got questions. And that's
Yeah.
no shame. And I'm not guilting anybody. I'm just saying it's time to have some hard conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. And in my experience, I've found that for women who have come out of, even though they may still go to church and all that, they came out of the heavy religious part of it, that they feel like children. And they see, I'm not really as grown as I thought, because they don't know themselves sexually. Depending on denomination, like I come from Pentecostal background, so they don't trust their intuition
Mm.
because they feel they need, they need somebody in leadership to really guide them, or something that they may feel pulled to do doesn't so-called line up with the word. So they're always in this state of cognitive dissonance. So I deal with that a lot when you have those two opposing beliefs, what you really, really believe versus what you've been taught to believe. So
Right.
before they can even make that connection with sexuality and spirituality, we got to dig through all of the junk.
So you're basically starting at the bottom with them. And that always trips me out, no matter what denomination you're from. I mean, the Songs of Solomon is like the most explicit part of the Bible. Like, how we mixing over that? Like, I mean, they're talking about all the things. I
Okay,
mean, they're
Solomon,
talking about the
that book
thighs
got
and everything.
thighs, titties, yeah, all,
Like,
all of it.
I'm just like, and it comes back to poor theology. And I'm saying it out of a place of love. A lot of times we don't read for understanding. We either read to confirm what we've been taught by somebody else, or we read in alignment with what we've been told. Very rarely in the beginning do we read for ourselves. And so I am learning that I was raised totally different. And like a lot of the things that I grew up being ostracized for now, people are like, well, wait a minute, hold up. I
Yeah.
think I might have been backwards up in there, because there's a debate on Facebook right now. Now I don't get into debates, but I do like to read them to see, what the perspectives are.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I'm sorry.
they were saying, like, once you get out of a place of needing a organized religion, whether it be um African spirituality or Christianity or any spirituality, once you let all of that go, that's when you really begin to find your intuition and trust yourself. Now I'm paraphrasing in my own words, but that's what I
Mhm.
feel like they said. And there were a lot of people who were upset about it. They were like, spirituality is an organized religion. And they were kind of going back and forth. Now, me personally, I believe you can believe anything you want to. But if that does not tell you to trust yourself, like if Yahweh trusts you with your own life and gives you free will, why you can't trust you if Yahweh can trust you? And
Mhm.
who's teaching you that you have to trust somebody outside of yourself, but walk and
Mhm.
live in your body every day? If we can't get that on a basic level, then you don't have just basic intimacy with yourself. Because
Right.
intimacy is two parts. It's not just sexual. And people, a lot of times, they forget that. They either think it's sex or intimacy. To some people, it's two separate things. And to some people, it's two parts or it's non existent. And I'd be like, okay.
If I'm in a romantic relationship, I need all the things. When I first started, people wanted to call me a sex doula, and I kind of got on board with that. But I was like, but it's so much more than that. So I switched it myself. I'm an intimacy doula because it's not just sex, it's, it's spirituality, it's how you experience intimacy. Some people, they can't even get physical with you if you don't stimulate their mind first. Some people, they don't want you if you don't set the whole atmosphere, you know. Hey, they set the atmosphere in church before they worship. Me
I
personally,
mean,
I like the atmosphere to be set before somebody come and worship my body. Come on now. Okay,
right.
so there's that. So there's all kinds of things that go into the intimacy aspects. There's different kinds of intimacy way beyond the physical. The physical is important, and it causes people to not be together because, and then you're talked about if your relationship doesn't work out because of sex. You're talked about if you got this together and sex is what brought you together. Like, that's when you have to get into trusting yourself, and whatever's going on in your relationship, work it out between the two of you, or two or more if you're into polyamory.
Right.
So relationships are so personal, and I love to deal with all of that, all the dynamics. I have worked with bisexual people, all the people on the spectrum, polyamorous people, like, because I'm here to help. I don't have no judgment to give. My only judgment is when somebody doesn't love themselves. Now, I got an issue with that, which is why I do the work that I do. So love yourself and then go from there. And I don't subscribe to the thought that you can't really love somebody else if you don't love yourself, because we've all done it. We've all loved on people, and then we get home, look at ourselves, and be like, ew.
I agree.
So I
Those are the
definitely
people
believe
with the
that you
love
can
language
love
to
other
give.
people and not love yourself. But
Absolutely.
you still got to love yourself so that you can elevate. And as far as that debate, I feel like some people need that structure of religion. Is to at the point that they no longer need it, but the religious leaders or whatever try to keep them in it. That's the problem. Because some people need structure for a time. Things happen in seasons. When we have children, they need a certain kind of structure. But then when they hit those adolescent years and start having problems, it's because they don't need us the structure the way that we were given to them at first. So you have to let them grow. You have to grow with them. And same thing with organized religion. Like I just kind of I hit a ceiling, and I don't do well with that. It was time for me to get out. But when you have been heavily indoctrinated and then you're just scared, it causes problems. So I feel like religion is needed for some. Some people never need that kind of structure. They're okay. They can just govern themselves. Even in the Bible, in Galatians, when Paul is talking to Galatians, he's basically telling them, you don't need somebody to tell you what to do. It's already just intrinsic to you. Now, people can go back and read Galatians and see if that's what they learned, but it is in there.
Yeah.
He was like, because the converted Jews were trying to say, oh, no, y'all have to do this and this and this and this and this. And I was like, told the Galatians, didn't I already tell y'all? You don't need nobody to tell you what to do. So it's in there. I'm a nerd. I'm a Bible nerd. I'm actually a minister. I was ordained a few years ago.
Wow. But I love that because it's very synonymous. Because like you said, sex is another form of worship. It's all
Correct.
about how you do it and your intent. A lot of people, and I want to piggyback off what you said about um the idea that if you don't love yourself, you can't love other people. A lot of our parents who are in the church or from the church, because they're taught to have a servant's heart, which is a great thing. But so you're showing and you're teaching your children that serving is how you love and how you give. So they learn to love outwardly before they learn to love inwardly. So that is their form of love. They just don't know how to give it back to them because they weren't taught that part. The church does teach it, but it's glossed over and lost sometimes in discipleship. So I definitely agree. My husband is a pastor and we don't think the same, but we have one understanding of who God is and what God does. So, and I think that's the thing too. A lot of us, we've disconnected. You feel like you can have one without the other. I can have good sex, but then if I get married, I feel confined because someone said that once you get married, that good sex doesn't exist.
Yeah,
Like
good sex can't exist outside of marriage. Like, it's round and round. It goes to like
right.
the scripture that the pleasures of sin only last for a season, but wasn't it pleasurable though?
So,
You know?
and it's all about mindset and the person because it's all about the connection. If you connect with
Yeah,
the person that you decided you want to be with forever, who's to say you'll ever have bad sex?
right.
Like that's your choice. You're choosing to have bad sex either because sis or bro, you're not a good teacher. You don't know how to teach another person how to please you, or you don't know how to learn to please other people. It's one or the other, and it's always your choice. Bad sex is always your choice. Sometimes it's intentional, and sometimes it's unintentional, but it's always you. And I hate to say that because we love to blame everything else. But if what you were taught and what you feel don't match up, who you gonna trust? Like how that joke where they have that, I don't know if it's a meme or a gift, they're like, who you gonna trust, me or your eyes? I see you doing something stupid, but who you gonna trust? What I'm telling you or what you see?
Mm-hmm.
That goes back to what you're saying about we're not taught to be intuitive to ourselves. And that's why we lack, because even if you follow the commandments of the Bible, the new or the old, it's simply telling you to be a good person. I mean, if you was lost in any way about being a good person, it's just really just showing you the way in case you was confused. You shouldn't be lying to folks, stealing from people, killing people, getting involved in other people's relationships. I mean, really mind your own business and do right by yourself and others. And I mean, you would think that would be common sense, but common sense isn't that common, and it trickles all the way down. We make
Yeah.
everything so super deep, and it be so deep that you be lost and missing. It's real simple. It's real simple. Like,
Yeah. It's
stop
real simple.
overthinking, trust yourself, and then not just good sex, but good intimacy and good relationships will come
And
to
good
you.
relationships. Yeah. I posted today on my on Facebook. Um, do you follow your heart? Because like me, I was taught that scripture that your heart is deceitful and wicked above all things. So you're literally taught not to trust those inner promptings. But people come back and say, well, you're not supposed to trust your unregenerated heart. That means somebody who doesn't believe or follow Jesus. There's a whole lot of people who don't believe in Jesus, but they're very connected to the divine. So they're just and highly intuitive and be on point with what they say. But there's a whole nother Zoom.
Yeah, that's I I agree with you. I'm gonna just say that the homie Jesus was real clear about you supposed to follow the Lord. But we need a messenger. And nothing wrong with Jesus. Don't forget that Jesus wanted you to follow God. I mean, you once again, the more you learn yourself, everything
Mhm.
else will make sense. Even your relationship with whoever your source of power is. I
Yeah.
honestly do believe that you can tell how deeply wounded a person is by what they believe, what their experiences have been, and what they think that they cannot do or experience.
Yes.
So
And the
I'm with
list can be
you.
so long for a lot of people. When
It
I
takes a while
first left
to
Pentecostal, when I first left the Pentecostal denomination, I didn't just stop going to church altogether. I just stopped going to that denomination. I woke up one day and I just made a list of all the things that I could think of that would send me to hell. I had like 100 things written out within minutes. Within minutes. And I was like blown away. And that wasn't even everything. That was just the stuff I could think of in about 2 or 3 minutes. I wasn't trying to live like that. There's too much to experience for me to be in that kind of box.
right.
The what you see now, all of this would so-called send me to hell because I have on jewelry, have on makeup, I'm showing my shoulders and just stuff like that.
Right.
Ain't nobody got time.
Yep. And everybody's restrictions are based on their denomination and where they come from.
Find out
So
yeah. And
yeah,
if people
I'm
want that life, fine. If that's what you want, I have no problem with that. My problem is when you're trying to force it on someone else through fear.
right.
That is my problem. If you want to be out here with your plain face and your long skirts, fine. But don't tell me that I am not a true believer or I'm not connected to the divine or that I'm going to hell just because because I'm out here showing some skin with some lipstick on,
Right.
that kind of thing.
I'm with you 100%. I feel like fear is the real reason that intimacy and sex and real connections is lost. The fear.
It exactly is, yeah.
Yeah.
Because people are scared.
And
They're even scared to say that
fear is
there
not
is
of
a
God.
connection. Correct.
So yeah, I'm with you. So we we went over our time, but I'm not mad at all.
Because I
So
was like, I need a
I
timer, but
my
it's
watch
not
was
Facebook Live, so I
down
couldn't
on
see it.
us. So tell us what upcoming classes do you have on Eventbrite?
On the 21st of this month, I have Feminine Flow, Intro to Feminine Power. So in that class, we'll talk about what does it mean to have feminine energy and to sit in that and be secure in it and realize it. It's a very intro class. We won't be doing anything too deep. The next one after that is in June. The next two after that are in June. So the second class is my food for my soul, where we'll discuss the power of the fupa, or in other words, our womb area, the sacral chakra, and what that power is, and how to utilize it, and why do we even neglect physically touching that part of ourselves, our midsection? Why don't we touch it? Why don't we want other people to touch it? Because we are so shameful of it. We have body image issues around the greatest part of us, the creative part of us. Like, we
Right.
carry children in our womb. It
It's
literally
the seat
is
of
a
our
creative
power.
center. Yes,
Yes.
it's the seat of our power,
Mhm.
my fupa, my soul. And the bigger your fupa, probably the more anxious you are about somebody touching it. But no matter if you have a little bit or a lot, I found that most women have issues with that. So if you're
Mm.
not even physically touching that area, you don't even understand what's going on. Like, if you physically touch that area and do some hip rolls or rub yourself, I'd be having my body butters, girl. I'd be rubbed up. And it really, you will feel the awakening if you're open to feeling it. So
I-
that's my fupa, my soul. We'll be talking about all things fupa. And then the last one is tied up and tangled up. I'm curious about dominance. So
love that. And
we'll
that
be talking a
that is
little
what's
bit about the kinky
definitely
stuff.
taboo. I love that. Yes. So on Eventbrite, we can catch you. Give me your Instagram, your Facebook, if you have a Twitter, all of your social media handles.
Okay. So on Eventbrite, you can look up the events under my name, Yeside, Yeside Davis, and they'll pop up. On Facebook, my business page is Get Your Bliss. And I also have a private group for women only by the same name, Get Your Bliss. And my personal page is my name, Yeside Davis. Instagram is also Get Your Bliss. And that's it.
Well, we're gonna definitely have to come back
And
and
my website, getyourbliss.today.
that today. Okay. I'm gonna make sure that I link all of these before I post it. We're gonna have to do
Okay.
this again. This was so good.
Yes.
Thank you for
I love
saying
this
yes.
stuff. Well,
I
thank you for
appreciate you
reaching
for sharing
out.
your heart.
It really is my heart. I love what I
Mhm. Well, I will
do.
see you soon and thank you.
You're so welcome, and thank you.
Bye.
Bye.